Hey ho! Let's go. We're going right from the World Series into the Major League Baseball hot stove season this week on our show. But as we always do, we begin by asking you the question: where else would you rather be than right here? Boom! Right now. As always, you are looking live at the Split Studios for Fantasy Baseball Now. Episode 13 is here for our show, part of the Ball9.com podcast network. Combined 70 years of fantasy baseball experience. I'm going to move that to 72 in the spring. Mike and I are here to talk about some Major League Baseball with a fantasy baseball spin. Sorry we missed y'all last week. We didn't want to interfere with the abbreviated World Series. And also I had Halloween to deal with Thursday, so trick or treat instead of the recap of the World Series. But here we are. I know we want to move on from the World Series, Mike.
Can't.
Well, let's take a quick look.
I can't.
We're all wrong. The 4 Yankee homers on the preview show all picked the Yankees. I thought the starting pitching for the Yankees would win the day. Rodon never got that second start that I thought he would be instrumental with. Buehler was good like I thought. Yamamoto was better than I thought he would be. And Flaherty was about right. Some good, some bad. Your thoughts on the when do you get to the stage where, hey, look, I enjoyed the ride. It was great to get back to the World Series 15 years. It was a great season. Never.
I'm never going to get back to that. I'm never going to get back to that stage because 15 years is too long. Cashman and that dipshit Boone are still going to be there next year. And it's not. So there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that they're going to get back there again, right? The teams will be better. They're getting older. Stuff happens. They were relatively healthy this year. Who knows what they're going to look like next year? I'll never get over it. I'm still not over 2002, dude. What are you talking? I mean, are you kidding me? I'm not going to get over it. So we could spend 5 hours talking about.
I got the time.
The point at what point I thought Walter Matthau was sitting on the Yankee bench drinking Pabst out of a igloo cooler while they were bad news bearsing it in Game 5. But to me, the series was lost in Game 1.
Okay. Well, by the way, if anyone has some comments of encouragement for Mike, the Yankee fan,
I don't want to hear him.
Feel free to chime in. We'll put him on the board. Let's help our brother.
First of all, anybody that I don't want to hear Dodger gloating. You're right to do it. I would be. I'm telling you right now, and I'll take it from the Dodger fans. All you other low rent, half-ass pieces of shit who didn't get that far. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it because you hate us because you're not us. I don't want to hear it. Everybody on Twitter running their mouths, Oreo fans, all 8 of them crawling out of the woodwork, our little stepchildren in Queens. It's like unbelievable.
So anyhow, back to
we have a third base coach. So the fire the third base coach comment is great because death taxes and the Yankees haven't had a third base coach that isn't worth a crap since Dick Hauser in the 70s. I mean, give me a break with that. So the reason I say they lost Game 1 was accentuated by the fact that Cole went out for the 7th inning in Game 5. You signed him for that specific. Take that down. You signed that for that. You signed him for. He was signed for the specific reason to pitch in the World Series. Specifically, right? We need a horse. We need an ace. We need that guy. We need that guy, top of the rotation, bulldog, 3-start dude that's going to go out there. And he gives up 1 base hit to lead off an inning, and you don't let him pitch out of it? Because for what? So you can have him in Game 4 and Game 7? Every game. Smoltz beat this to a pulp. Every pitch, every game, you can always say the same thing so many 10,000 times, Johnny.
Uncle Ted's on a roll.
He's on a roll. He's right about that too. You're not helping, Uncle Ted. You're not helping. But so I thought game one is when I thought game one was where the series was lost. Just simply because you don't know what you're going to get out of Schmidt in 3. Nestor Cortez isn't Mark Leiter. Like, you're trying to catch lightning in a bottle twice. I agree with that as well, though he did a good job. So I thought game one set the tone for what was going to happen. And then, of course, Judge breaks out. They got a 5-0 lead. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to watch game 6 while I'm at an Iron Maiden concert on Friday night at the time. And then inexplicably, every possible thing that could go wrong went wrong, including a guy who hasn't dropped a ball in center field in his life, dropping a ball to start it all off.
No, he's booked for New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Clark rocking New Year's Eve thing.
Oh, I can't see that enough. It makes me laugh every single time.
So let's talk about him for a second. All right. He hits the home run. I said to my wife, like, this guy's got to get going. First pitch gone, home run. But I love Yankee Twitter. I love following it. You're excused if that's a nice stiff 4, 5, 6 finger whiskey in there, bourbon.
A little port tonight because I'm doing some whining, so I wanted to make sure I had.
Oh, okay. Yeah, people are saying that this stink is going to stay on him for the rest of his career. Is that too much? That's too much, right?
It is too much, because I mean, I know the Dodgers won, and I know he was hurt, but is anybody calling Ohtani out for going 2 for 26?
No, they won't.
No, they're not. I mean, it's how about this for a change? How about we talk about how great Giancarlo Stanton was during the playoffs?
He was exceptional. And let me go to him for a second. The reason why that was great is what you just said. Everything was kind of, all the pieces fell into place this year and they were healthy, and he was hot.
Oh, man, he hit some balls that just, you got to be kidding me. 117.5 miles an hour. I mean, I'm not an exit velocity guy, but that's hard. That's a hard hit ball. That's a hard hit ball. But, like, how about talk about like, Glaber had a great playoff. Like that, it's not. I mean, Mattingly struggled in the playoffs forever. A-Rod struggled in the playoffs forever. And it can't just always be about superstars not coming up big on the big stage. Do you think that maybe they get pitched to a little bit differently? But all that said, the last 2 games, he was getting locked in, and that's why. When they jumped out to that lead, especially with him and Jazz homer and back-to-back, you're like, okay, now all the pressure starts to turn to the Dodgers if they can get back to LA. 100% of the pressure's on there, and Judge is getting locked in. Yes, and he goes on these tears. He just happened to be in a funk at the worst possible time of the season, but he was in those funks this year. And then he would break out and he'd hit 7 homers in 5 games. Yeah, and put them on their back. So he just, I'm never going to get over it. I'm just not. Every single flaw that was wrong with this team got exposed. The Dodgers, if it wasn't for the fact that they made contact better, pitched better, fielded better, and ran the bases better, we would have won the series.
Yeah.
I mean, they did everything better. How they did everything better.
Suggestion to bring in Jose Ramirez.
They'd move him. They try to move him. They decide that he would be better served being a first baseman or a left fielder. Hey, they've only talked about third baseman for 8 years, and they want to move him to short until Volpe got there.
The play in the 5th inning there. I thought Cole's explanation of the dribbler to Rizzo was he couldn't tell the speed of the ball, so he He went toward where the ball was. And that's why he didn't get to first base. Now, the big man in Massachusetts, I think, very astutely pointed out the next day, I don't give a shit what he says. He's got to at least act like he's trying to get to first base instead of giving up on the play.
So I'm 5 days into one of my favorite game shows on Twitter, which is Argue with a Major League Player. And the amount of people that have told former Major League first basemen and pitchers that they're wrong about what should have happened on that play, I can't stop laughing about it. Like hey, let me help, for the 33 people that are listening, if you're one of these people that have been calling out these Major League players, you haven't played since Little League, don't tell these fucking guys what that play looks like. I don't care what Rizzo should or shouldn't have done on that ball, because you don't know what the spin is, and it was spinning like crazy. Of course, leave it to another Mookie to be an instrumental play at first base in the World Series. Cole has to go to first base.
Yep.
He has to. He has to. And as Greg Olson said to somebody who for the 30th time told him he was wrong. I mean, he only pitched for 14 years in the majors. He goes, just be clear. Like, Usain Bolt can't beat a pitcher to first base if the pitcher breaks when the ball's hit. Because you're only running 45 feet. You're going to get there. And if he would have broke, and I get it from Cole's explanation that he thought that he might have had a shot to field it.
Yeah.
But then he didn't make that decision. He didn't make that decision quick enough to realize that he couldn't. And he could have been mentally gassed at that point because he had gotten through. He had gotten through with strikeouts through who was hitting 9. Wilson, I don't know who was hitting 9.
Was Lux playing that?
But then he got through Ohtani, struck them both out, and they're getting out of this inning with no runs. Like that whole crap show, they were going to get out of with no runs allowed, and it quickly unraveled. So they have the bonehead play at first base, make a great pitch to Freeman, who deserved the MVP of, if there ever was one, who fists one. And then Teoscar does what Teoscar does against the Yankees.
Yeah.
He friggin' pops them. And then they get a lead and they give it up and then they lose and I'm pissed and then I'm like, can't sleep for 3 days. I'm trying not to get on. I'm trying my hardest not to get on social media, but it's like driving by an accident. You can't help but look. It could be somebody on fire in the middle of the road, and it's just like.
All right. So
and I can't get over it because the only distraction to get over it is this ongoing. I think it was our boy Not Guyette. He's like, "What are you looking forward to now that the off season's here?" And I'm like, 100 more days of arguing about what should have happened in that play and that play first base. Like, it's gonna happen. Uncle Ted is on a roll tonight.
Uncle Ted's fired up. Uncle Ted has not seen the news that Cole did re-agree with the Yankees, so whatever he opted out to fix something in contract, that's been done.
Yeah, that's a weird, because then we'll get into free agency. That's a weird situation because built into his contract was a two-sided opt-out where he could opt out, but the Yankees had the right, if he opted out, to add 1 year at $36 million to the contract.
Yeah.
And they agreed to leave the contract alone. And then they'll negotiate off that now going forward to structure something else to add a 5th or even a 6th year to it. So literally it's like he never even opted out. That was not unexpected, though it did create an incredible amount of panic. And then between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock today, just the Chicken Little world that is Yankee Twitter. He's going to leave. He's going to sign with the Dodgers. He's going to go back home. Now they're going to have him too. And then they're going to sign Soto, and they're going to have everybody. And it's like, oh, and then I just got off. Like, I'm done.
It's okay to take a break.
It's good. I'm going to have a slice of pizza.
All right. So look, we'll be done. We've congratulated the Dodgers.
No, we
job.
didn't. You did.
Good job.
The show did. One of the hosts did not.
Okay, it wasn't unanimous. All right, hot stove report.
It was not unanimous.
Now the fun starts, right? Free agency is actually underway today.
Yeah.
We're each gonna pick 3 guys to focus on, but we're gonna start with obviously the big elephant in the room here. For the Yankees, I don't know how you let Juan Soto go, but Hal Steinbrenner does not want to spend any money, and he's going to have to spend a ton of it. Is it Juan Soto or fiscal responsibility? A term I've loved educating Yankee fans about the last couple of years. They got to sign.
As an A's fan, you're an expert in fiscal responsibility.
No, that's not even fiscally responsible what they do. But anyway, what do you do? Is Hal going to actually open up the checkbook? He's got it. He's got the money.
Here's the problem. Forget the where and the what and the how much. He turned 26 years old last Friday. He's already had a career that's trending to a Hall of Fame career.
Oh, without question.
It seems like he's been in baseball for 25 years. He's already rejected 2 pretty big contracts, waiting for this moment, knowing that, kind of bet on himself, right? Rejected a big contract, a Strasburg type deal from the Nationals. They traded him because they knew they couldn't sign him. Rejected an 8-year deal from the Padres. They traded him because they knew where the numbers were going to go. And they probably also realized that every time they signed a big contract, their team took a step backwards. So that said, I think it's going to end up being like a 62 or 63 million AAV. And if you sign him for 14 years, that's to age 40, which is not unlikely for a 26-year-old player. Not unlikely, right? You're talking about $850 million. And I thought it was going to, I still think it's going to end up being in the 650s, just with the highest AAV of all time. But then Carl Ravitch tweeted he thought between 700 and 800, and then I started doing that math, and it could very well be. So now you're Hal. You're competing with Steve Cohen, who's got $200 million coming off the books this year. $200 million.
Here's the other thing, and then I'll let you finish the thing with Cohen. This was supposed to be a rebuild year for the Mets. They junked all the old guys, Verlander and Scherzer, and they thought they were going to reload and get ready for next year. And here they are, 2 wins away from the World Series.
Yeah, but who's going to play first base? Because that doesn't look – well, you'll get to him.
We'll get to him.
Manaea opted out. I don't know if they're going to bring Severino back. Was it like a last year's Diamondbacks, lightning in a bottle? And now you got to reinvest a little bit to fix the fringes? Or do you make another big, giant splash? And what if it doesn't work out? I mean, what if it doesn't work out? I mean, I think that we're kind of starting to learn that, like, signing one guy to a huge contract doesn't guarantee that you're going to get anywhere.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Adding a one guy to it with a huge contract when you're okay spending over the threshold, or in the tier 1, or in the Dodgers case, well, spending whatever you're going to spend, and it is what it is. If you're okay with it, then you're okay with it. I don't think that Hal is. I don't know. We're going to find out. I mean, the best thing that happened in the playoffs was just watching him squirm after the ALCS, and also, I mean, fans chanting re-sign Soto after the game the other night. So I think he likes New York. I think he wants to win. So that eliminates a bunch of teams. Where he goes is eliminated off the cuff.
I found
it's going to be Yankees, Mets in the bidding war. They said the Dodgers, but now the Dodgers are the new Mets, or the new Yankees, where you put the Dodgers, you attach the Dodgers to everybody big. to try to drive the price up.
The John Heyman mystery team, Boris's shill, where he drops that in there just to
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Cubs poked around. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Giants poked around.
Yeah,
at all. They were willing to give Aaron Judge a lot of money.
They'll spend the money. They just can't get anyone to take it.
The sleeper team, based on very recent circumstances, is the Phillies.
Really?
Yes. So one of the minority owners in Philadelphia just sold his portion of the team to a group of 3 guys that are all loaded. And they're Philly guys. And the Harper Soto connection is a thing.
Uncle Ted really fired up tonight.
He's right. He's not making me feel any better, I can tell you that.
That's a shame. I was hoping to do that.
But like the Harper Soto connection is a thing.
Okay.
And they're going to move Marsh, and they need another outfielder, and they could move Castellanos to left field. They're going to trade Bohm. They don't care how much money they're spending because they know how much money they're going to make when they win because they've already seen it. They've already seen how much money they're making right now being as good as they are. And I think John Middleton wants to win a World Series. I think he wants to win. And it's the difference between when you have owners that care more about winning, when they care about winning first and the money second, you got to watch out for those with a guy like Soto. You got to watch out for those guys. Where he would, I mean, obviously he would fit with the Yankees. That was a historic combination with him and Judge. Where he would fit the best of any team in baseball who needs him the most desperately to get over the top is Seattle. But they're not going to spend. They're not going to spend them. They're not going to spend the money. They're not going to do it. They won't be in on it. And I can't see him wanting to go there.
Yeah.
But he is a Boras client. You're not going to have to worry about that. I think this one's going to. The other thing is, I think this one's going to get done quick.
You think so?
I think this one's going to be done. I think this one's going to be done relatively early. Not like like I think it's going to be not long after. Like I think it might be before Christmas. I really do.
Here's why I think I'm interested. One of the off-season storylines. Scott Boras had a bad off-season last year.
Sure did.
Snell and Chapman and Jordan Montgomery fired him. When's the last time you heard somebody fired Scott Boras as an agent? And good for Jordan Montgomery for opting into that contract. Good for Jordan Montgomery for opting in. Screw you. You know, you ripped me at the end of the year. Yeah, now you're going to pay me or have to eat a contract and trade him.
Well,
but can Boras afford to have another year where his top guys are out until spring training and all that stuff? Because you saw last year, especially your pitchers, took a while to get on track. Montgomery never did.
Well, I think he's got a. I think it was a good. I hope for the sake of his clients that they have that they take more control over the situation and stop just trusting him. Right.
Sure.
Well, we'll find out with Blake Snell, but I also think that Soto's an outlier, right? So Soto's the outlier, but he's going to go through it with Snell again. And I would suspect that Snell would want to get his deal done as fast as he possibly could.
Based on what happened last year. So the one thing I wanted to talk about Soto, when he gave his presser after Game 5, I thought he would be a little more politically correct with what I know he's a Boras agent. It's all about money, and I get that. There was no love for the situation of, hey, I was here. He said he enjoyed being there, and he said it, but he didn't go a little further that I thought would have been a little more appropriate, given that they had just lost the World Series. He turned into a businessman before he reached the dugout steps.
Well, he was advised properly.
Yeah.
He said exactly what he should have said. Right? because if he would have said, I really love it here, I hope we can find a way for it to work and me stay here.
Yep.
It puts the Yankees in a terrible position, right? And it puts every other team in an equally terrible position. Because now they know they're competing against emotion, and they're not just competing with dollars. And I didn't have a problem with it. I mean, obviously, you wish, we're both old, so we wish you would have said, "Yeah, I love it here. I want to finish my career here." That's not the way the world works anymore in baseball or in sports in general for free agency. It doesn't work like that. And I didn't have a problem. I didn't have a problem with what he said, and I didn't take it as there's no way he's coming back. I didn't take it as that. I took it as he's going to take. I think I take it as if there are three teams that are within $1 million AAV of each other, then that's when he'll make a decision about how much he loved playing there.
Yeah.
Do I really want to go to Team X when I can make so much? I can make all this extra money on the side. I can make all this extra money on the side. I think Uncle Ted's a Rangers fan. I'm guessing Uncle Ted's a Rangers fan. They just Eovaldi opted out today. They need pitching.
No, Uncle Ted is on his game tonight.
Uncle Ted is on his game.
All right, so let's get into some of the three. I'll let you start since you're healing your wounds.
I am. So we'll talk about these in a couple of different ways, right? So the player, where we think he's going to land, and then what's the fantasy impact when they wherever they land, right? So Snell's not going to sign in April next year. That will not be happening. I mean, he'll be 32 when the season starts. He'll probably get he'll get between 4 and 6 years. He'll get between 30 and $34 million probably a year. I mean, he had after he wasn't injured the second time, he was just as Cy Youngable as he was before that. I mean, he was unbelievable. I mean, he had a no-hitter. He was in no-hit territory into the seventh inning, like 4 different starts. I mean, he was phenomenal. So to me, it's the Padres looking to bring him back, who could desperately use him. The Mets, because they're going to be in on every single pitcher. The Giants, who, we'll see. I'm excited and intrigued about what Buster Posey's going to do there. I think having somebody that actually knows the game in a front office role could add a different dynamic that we haven't seen in a little bit. And then the Cubs would be another team that I think would look at him, or that he'll look at, because the Cubs might think they're one pitcher away from winning that division, especially the way they finished and the way they started and finished. The middle, not so much. I think he's gonna end up back in San Francisco. That's where I think he's gonna end up. But wherever he goes, so his fantasy value is his fantasy value no matter what.
Yep.
But the other two areas where he helps fantasy is if you are in a league that uses holds as a stat, he helps with that part of a bullpen, and he helps the closer. Because he pitches in a lot of close games, but he doesn't give up anything. So you're always going to be in those games where holds and saves are going to be in the forefront.
Okay.
Now, Max Fried, he's a year younger. I mean, I think the Padres will be in on him. I think the Giants will be in on him as like, hey, we didn't get Snell. We take a run at Fried. I think the Rangers are going to be in on Fried. And I think the Cubs are going to be in on Fried. And I think he's going to end up in Chicago. And the reason I think he's going to end up in
Fried guy. I don't.
You know what? He does. He's unspectacular.
Yeah.
He's unspectacular. But the two things that he has going for him, if he can stay healthy, which has also been a problem for him, is he's in like the 95th percentile of exit velocity on batted balls, which means he doesn't give up hard contact, and he's a 60% ground ball pitcher.
Okay, yeah.
So in Chicago, if you're going to sign a pitcher, they damn well better be a ground ball pitcher. Because ground ball pitchers on windy days don't matter. Fly ball pitchers on windy days matter a lot. And he could go from being, somebody that was great with the Braves. I'm really surprised. I'm really surprised. I guess now after they traded for Griffin Canning, I'm not. But I'm really surprised that the Braves are so quick to move off him.
Maybe it's time. I don't know. I trust the Braves with the way they handle pitchers. Uncle Ted just said a good point about stacking with the way pitching is going now in baseball with going all hitters. That's kind of what I'm doing with my team. They've devalued the
starters.
So
I think Fried. So. I think he's a National League pitcher. He knows the league. I think he would do well in Chicago, and wherever he goes, same thing. Like he's not going to make. He's a 5th or 7th round pick, depending on where he fits. But if wins are your thing, he goes to a winner, that's going to help.
Yeah.
And he's another close guy. He's another close game guy, though he does go deeper than Snell. So closer gets an uptick on whatever team he goes to, especially if he fills in. And then Bregman's like the mystery man to me. Like I honestly, like to go back to what Uncle Ted was saying earlier, if you're not going to re-sign Glaber, I sign Bregman and move Jazz to second base.
Yeah.
You get a real third baseman at third base. I mean, he's an astoundingly good third baseman. He won't be, he'll be 31 on opening day. He's 30 right now. He turns 31 in a couple of weeks. I don't know why Houston would let him go, because I haven't looked deeply enough to figure out who they would play there. They'd take Diaz from behind the plate and move him to third base. I don't know. Their farm system has nothing, so they're going to have to find a third baseman. They're already not enamored with Jeremy Pena again, so like they're in a little transition. His fantasy value will be best of any team that's attached to him if he stays in Houston, because it's in a better lineup. So more RBIs, more runs scored. He's linked to Washington. He's linked to the Royals. The impact on the Royals is Mikhail Garcia would move to second and Bregman would go to third, and they'd get a little more power in their lineup, which is what they need. I think he's going to end up in Detroit. And I think it'd be a perfect fit if he ends up in Detroit.
Yeah, the Tigers are the interesting one because they're coming off of a really nice season. Are they going to invest? I'm going to talk about them in just a few minutes with a couple of my guys, but are they ready to invest? And it's not so much if they are people going to go there? That's the other part. Sometimes when you're building it and you're not in a desirable, where you're going to live and all that stuff, you got to pay more.
Detroit's back, man. Detroit's coming back. Detroit's making a comeback.
I think it's great that the Tigers made the playoffs this year. So, but we'll see how they do. And again, you got to get the players to show up to be able to want to come.
You got to get the players to show up. And so remember, it's a new regime. It's not the regime that signed that disastrous Javi Baez contract. I think he's a good fit. I think his fantasy impact is his fantasy impact. I mean, he wasn't great this year, and he's never been. Though he has had a higher WAR in the last 5 years than Devers, which is amazing to me. And I'm not a WAR guy, but that's a weird thing for me.
Yeah,
I think his impact in Detroit is better on the other players than it is on him himself. I think it helps Riley Green with some productivity. If Spencer Torkelson's back, I think it helps Spencer Torkelson with him in that lineup. And I think it helps Spencer Torkelson with him in that clubhouse.
Yeah.
Like a veteran guy that's a different voice besides the manager and everybody else, like somebody in that building, like Mark Canha was for them this year. That helps. I think they need that. I mean, being a team that young, they need some players that are of that, right?
Yeah. All right, he'll go to my three, and it'll be interesting I hope it I like when it happens early, right? Get the free agents going early. Don't drag it out. I hate that stuff. So first is Corbin Burns. He'd be a huge get for the new ownership group in Baltimore to retain him. 3-year average, 188 innings pitched, 226 strikeouts in those 188, 293, 0.99 whip. I know he's getting a little older, but all the guy does is produce, and he does it healthy. I think he's going to get paid, and I think Steve Cohen's going to be the one to pay him.
I agree with that.
I think he's coming to New York. All right, I'd love to see him stay in Baltimore. I just don't think so, and he's got New York City written all over it. So next is Pete Alonso, and he's the interesting chip for the Mets because if they can get Soto, they're not going to do both.
No.
Right? But Alonso's durable to 156 games on average, 41 homers, 114 RBIs over the last 3 years. He's 29. He's still in his prime. Okay. I could see him going to Baltimore. They had a hole at first base last year. And he's a masher. And that's never a bad thing.
I could see him going 35 minutes south down 95 too.
To Philly?
No, south. Washington.
Oh, Washington. Okay.
Washington's going to spend money this offseason.
Are they?
They got 31 guys on a 40-man roster that are making $100,000 a year, for Christ's sakes. Mm-hmm. And they decided they're not going to sell the team, so now they got to get people to show up.
And Willie Adames is a guy that we talked about a lot during the year. I know you love him in fantasy.
Make so much money, man.
He was the 14th ranked player, I think, at CBS all of last year. I don't know if it's just that he's been stuck in Milwaukee the last couple of years, but he is chronically underrated and undervalued. He's still only 29.
I know.
He actually stole 21 bases last year, so he added that to his game.
He was 19 when he came up.
Yeah, I mean, he did 27 homers last year, 84 RBI. Someone's going to pay him. And
He's going to get paid a lot.
I've seen Atlanta, possibly. I saw Detroit as an option for him. You brought up Washington for a second. What do you do with C.J. Abrams? Do you hope that demotion is that they had at the end of the year? Is that trying to get his attitude a little bit, could they be a player for a shortstop?
I've seen them linked to Bregman, Alonso, a couple pitchers, not to any shortstops. I think it was a good time to send a message to C.J. Abrams because the season is pretty much over at that point in time, and we need you to be what we need you to be. We need you to be, we're trying to make something happen here, and we need you to be a pro and act like a pro. And, we don't need 10,000 Instagram posts from all these people around Washington, D.C. out with you at 2:00 in the morning. We're done with it.
Yeah.
So, you got to be a pro. I don't expect. If they're going to do it, they would trade him. They already paid him, so it's not like they're not going to do anything crazy.
We got to get Uncle Ted on the show.
Ted's awesome, man. He's right about Abrams.
He is right.
I think that back to Baltimore. As an Oriole fan, this offseason is probably the most important to me that I've had in 20 years. Because now I got a new owner that said all the right things when he took over.
Yeah.
And now I got to see it.
Well, they didn't do it in July. And that was my biggest. They were the team I ripped the most at the trade deadline.
Yeah. Zach Eflin was fine in the playoffs, but Zach Eflin was not. He didn't move the needle when they really needed starting pitching. And Jack Flaherty, even though it didn't work out for him, a Flaherty type was what they should have gone after, and they didn't. And so now it's a matter of, I don't know how I say it. It's hard to say you don't need Anthony Santander, but to me, he's not a priority for them because they're so loaded in the outfield in their system.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to start trading some of those pieces, Kerstad and some of those other guys, unless you're going to start moving them. But Uncle Ted made a good point. They do get Felix Bautista back next year. That hopefully fixes their bullpen a little bit. Bradish will come back. They'll probably bring Means back on a cheap deal because, he may he may get a 2 for 12 or something with an option. Just like we'll bring him back and see what he's got. A Severino type deal. Maybe you'll get a 2-year, $24 million deal because we like you and you've been here and went through all the crap. But if they don't do something, Alonso, bring back Burns, pivot off Burns, sign Freed and Flaherty, or if they don't do something that shows that they're willing to spend some money on an upward to like higher middle tier free agent, then what difference is the new owner from the old owner?
Look, if I were them, and I know this is not a popular thing, I would pay Santander because he's a 40 home run guy. He's done it. And I would trade a guy like Kjerstad because he's a DH in the making, right? You don't know if he's got a spot in the field. I would trade one or two of those kids from some established.
They should have moved him to first base when they sent him down the last time. Yeah. They should have put him. Yeah, Uncle Ted. A couple of weeks from now, we'll talk about Pete Crow Armstrong.
Oh, Pete Crow Armstrong. Yeah.
Good evening, Battlefield Bob. Battlefield Bob has arrived. I would have started playing Kjerstad at first base when I sent him down.
Yeah.
Just to see, because his power is going to play for sure. I told you, I sat 10 feet away from the guy when I was at the game down there. He's a massive man.
Yeah.
That guy's gigantic, man. He's huge. He's a huge cat, man. He is a big guy. And if they don't have another first baseman in their system that's ready to go, and they're not going to, would they take a run at Christian Walker? But Christian Walker's going to get paid, man.
Yeah.
I don't think he necessarily wants to leave Arizona, but I don't know if he is 30. I think he's 34. But he's won 3 Gold Gloves in a row. So that's a thing. Right. And there's a lot of interesting guys. I see all these plan Bs for the Yankees. And every time I see Jack Flaherty as a plan B for the Yankees, I'm like, no, I don't want Jack Flaherty. I don't want Jack Flaherty. It's going to be very, very interesting. And it's one thing to talk about the guys that we're talking about and what their specific fantasy impact is. But what is the impact on other players on that team? What's the impact on other players in that lineup if they get signed? Like, what's the impact in Washington if Pete Alonso signs in Washington? For Woods and for Young and for Garcia and for Kelbert Ruiz and all the rest of these young hitters, when now I can go back to playing my game and I can just get back. I can get on base, and I got a guy in my lineup that's proven he's going to drive runs in. Then all of a sudden, us stealing, or we're not going to run as much in front of him because we don't want first base open when he comes up when he's on a tear.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we saw it with Soto. Soto's stolen bases were way down this year. Because they're not going to run him and leave first base open because you're just going to walk Judge.
Yeah. All right. So are we back next week? Are we going to start? We going to do our end of the season stuff next week?
Yeah, next week we'll do our end of the season, our MVP, LVP, our Cy Young, and thanks. I'm stealing this from you, Jason Stark. Our Cy Yuck. We'll do. Who was drafted higher than they ever should have been? Who was the biggest sleeper? And then free agency will be gone, and then we'll start rating. We'll start doing position rankings.
Yep.
Week off week, and by the time we're done with that, it's going to be pitchers and catchers report and draft time, and we start talking about average draft position and guys to stay away from, and if we changed our mind on guys that we would say we would never draft before. And it's on tape, so we can actually review the tape when we take him in the draft next year. You said you'd never take this guy again.
Never again, Volpe. That's stuck. That's stuck all the way through the World Series. I got one more before we depart. How not to do public relations. how not to do it. So
I know where this is going, and I love it.
So these stupid, idiot, dumb bastards in Northern California put out the press conference today, or put out their press release, saying they now are to be referred to as the Athletics. They dropped the name Oakland.
Yeah.
You would think they might just pick up Sacramento since they're playing there rent-free for 3 to 4 years.
With Uncle Ted, he doesn't strike out.
But no. And then it's telling first reference were just the Athletics, and then the A's is acceptable, not acknowledging the city that's hosting them for 3 to 4 years. And maybe longer, because they're never going to build that stadium in Vegas.
Committed more. They just committed more money to it. The Fishers did.
No, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to happen. So on this show, I am proposing that if we do reference my former team, the divorce settlement is in, that they are the don't call us the Sacramento Athletics, similar to Jeffrey, don't call me Jeff, the hack man, Jeff Leonard, back in the 80s with the G-Men.
The hack man.
One flap down, going around the bases.
Yeah, I don't know who advises them on what they put out.
Oh, Uncle Ted, don't go there. Don't go there. Don't go there.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong about
it's not
Oakland.
The city's got some issues.
Oakland is a challenge. San Francisco is not a lot better.
Yeah.
But everything that they have published since what? Well, forever mostly, but since the end of or the middle of September has been, this is why they need a new publicist, because their intention in their feeble fucking brains, they believe that their intention of what they're saying is pure and comes from their heart. And every time you read it, it's read as another giant slap right in the friggin' face. Every single time. So now they're done beating the shit out of the people of Oakland that supported that team forever, somewhat. And they took a giant shit on a team the city that's going to host them for 3 or 4 years. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Uncle Ted, don't worry about Nashville. Don't worry about Nashville need the team. Jerry Reinsdorf's already working on that.
Yeah. And the thing about the Athletics is that they're hoping to go to Vegas for a city that doesn't really want them.
No.
And that's the interesting part. So there's so many interesting parts, but whatever.
Yeah, let's go to the baseball stadium in the hottest city in the United States and have it be a non-home. I mean, the only reason Vegas wants it is for tourist revenue.
That's all.
They don't want it to support. I mean, the Golden Knights are supported.
Well, they're a homegrown team.
Right.
Look at
but
the Aces do great. They're a homegrown team.
And
the Raiders
The Raiders that's not a home. There's no home field advantage. It's not a home game there.
Everybody there. They weren't Raider fans that bought the tickets. They bought them because they were the new game in town, and they could sell a shitload of money. They could get a lot of money.
They could sell their tickets every week.
Yeah, why not? Why not? I mean, if you're a Steeler fan, you want to go to like they all did this year. It looked like 60,000 of them were in there. Hey, let's go see the Steelers. Let's go to Vegas for the weekend. You get tickets. So.
Well, now Luke Getsy's got to buy his own now, so that's.
Look, let's go to football for a second. The football gods are giving me a break. The Huskers are on a bye week Saturday, and the Raiders are on a bye week Sunday. So my disposition should be a little better this weekend. My poor
Uncle Ted is on a fucking roll tonight.
Uncle Ted is fired up tonight.
He's put a team in London, Mexico City, and then he follows up with Tel Aviv. Japan needs a team.
That'd be lively.
That would be lively. And it'd be a new definition of your pitcher getting shelled. That'd be great. That'd be great.
We sent Japan the Bad News Bears in the Japan tour in the late 70s. What more do you want?
I mean, you saw my friggin' text to you idiots when I'm like, let's just recap a 4-day swing for me. Yankees lose, Jets lose, Yankees, Knicks lose. It took Thursday. It took a Thursday night Halloween football game in which there was Halloween's quite an event here in my part of the world. And there could have been some consumption of adult beverages starting at like 2:00. So it was like we were tailgating for Halloween in my neighborhood.
That was a legit text I sent to you when Corley dropped the ball in front of the end zone. Like, do you have a whiskey place that'll deliver you some booze to your house? I was going to send you a bottle.
That literally, I had zero ability to even respond to that. I mean, like, that's the kind of shit that, like, after coming off the World Series, after coming off the way that the Jets have lost with, for the last 5 weeks, and then that being the first thing of excitement that happens that ends with that's the kind of shit that people just like make people pack their car and just go soul searching, and you don't hear from them for 3 years. Like, I got to get out. Like, I'm just going to like, I'm done. I'm going 1,000% off the grid. I'm just going to drive the country. I'm going to sleep in my car. I'm going to see the sights. I'm going to meet some interesting people. I'll sweep parking lots in this town for 2 weeks to make enough money to pay for gas, and then I'm out.
Yep.
Like, that's the kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that it just.
That was me about 3:15 Sunday watching the Raiders get boat raced again.
Not good.
No.
Not good.
Kumar Rocker, baby.
That's a phenomenally understated point. It really is.
What, the Raiders making me question life decisions?
No, how big Kumar Rocker could make baseball in India if MLB could market the game to India. I mean, the whole world stopped. I mean, in Japan, it's Ohtani everything in Japan.
Yeah.
I mean, when Yamamoto faced crap, who's the Mets Japanese pitcher? I can't. Right out of my head.
Hideki Irabu?
No, no. In this year's playoffs, when the Mets and Dodgers in Game 1, when it was 2 Japanese pitchers, it was the highest rated baseball game ever watched in Japan.
Hey, quick question. Why is Jose Trevino pinch hitting in any spot? Just random.
Just random?
Just a random question.
Well,
he hit it in the air. I'll give him credit.
He did hit it in the air, but you leave Dominguez buried on your bench. You don't give him anything. You roster Grisham for whatever reason, and not Birdie, who would have been the most likely pinch hitter. You skimp on your bench, and you try to do it with scrap heap guys, and you don't sign. You go into the season thinking a guy coming off a bad heel that hasn't gotten a hit for 2 years is going to be the guy that's going to help your team, and DJ LeMahieu, and he doesn't and Cashman doesn't react well to stuff like that.
Fiscal responsibility.
He doesn't react well to stuff like that. He wants to go get these friggin' Senga. That's right. Thank you, Bob. I mean, Anthony Rizzo is on the Yankees because nobody else wanted him. And I know Yankee fans love Anthony Rizzo, but there was a reason that the Cubs let him go, and that there was a reason he didn't get signed until March.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. In a stadium that's been built for a left-hand slugging first baseman since the fucking place opened in the 1920s, and you want to go out and get a 37-year-old occasional power hitting first baseman whose fielding skills, which was his number one thing, are diminishing, and that's your answer at first base. Like, that's the flaws in the lineup, right? The flaws were the flaws. And when your lineup is flawed, you can't fix it with guys on your bench because you're cheap when you're cheap with your bench. You're cheap with your bullpen, you're cheap with your bench. I'm going to go out and sign 6 guys. I'm going to give Rodon a big contract. I'm going to give we're paying Soto. We still got to pay Stanton. We got Judge. We may have to pay Glaber. We got, we gave Verdugo pennies, and I would bring Verdugo back. That's just me. I thought he was fine. He was the best fielding left fielder we've had there since Roy White, for Christ's sake. So that's a thing that helps. But like it's always been. I've said it. Feel like I've said this for 15 years. Roster construction always concerns me with that team.
Yeah.
And then now you go through this list of the top 50 free agents, and you're like, I'm not even talking about 1 through 40. I'm talking about 40 through 50, and guys that could legitimately help that team. And he's not gonna I don't even. What is plan B if Soto signs someplace else? And I mean, I have to be realistic. He absolutely could. What's plan B?
I don't know.
We were prepared to spend $60 million on Soto. So is it 2 $30 million a year guys? I guarantee you it's not.
I think Soto's the only one he's going to open up that checkbook for, and I think they're going to have to help him find his checkbook, as Al Chervik said at the end.
Yeah, I mean, to me, if you're not going to sign Soto, then sign Santander and sign Christian Walker. You fixed first base and you fixed right field, and you put a left-hand power bat and a Gold Glove first baseman with pop and speed at first base, and you just upgraded your team, even though you lost Soto. He won't do it. He's not going to do it. I'm just not. And there's too much track record. It's the same. It's equally as frustrating as it would be knowing that the A's were the Sacramento Athletics.
Don't call us Sacramento.
Are not going to spend money. Like, knowing that that's not going to happen.
Nobody wants to go.
It's very frustrating. Knowing that it could happen and doesn't might be more frustrating. That
if that happens, I'll get you a Nationals cap.
I'll buy a Nationals cap. He was my favorite non-Yankee before he became a Yankee. I mean, I'm going to get unless he signs with the Red Sox, I'm going to get a cap from wherever.
What about the Mets?
I will not get
the Mets.
If I get a Mets cap, I will, on the live feed, I will take a crap right in it and it'll be our last episode. But I will at 100, or I'll stick my finger down my throat and vomit in it. Or I'll just
not quite as bold as the guy who on Twitter the other day said if Iowa votes for Kamala Harris, he's going to castrate himself on live social stream.
Oh man, I wish I had time to move to Iowa. I'm focused on helping Le'Veon Bell work with my Bolivian travel agent to leave the country.
Yeah, give me a popcorn and a soft drink and have at it. Put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, starting Wednesday, we can focus on life again because we don't have to see 25,000 political ads about how vicious and vile the other person is. God forbid we would see one that talks about what they're actually going to do for us. I'd hate to think that.
The text and the emails. Let's not get political. We've done pretty good staying away from it. So, anyhow, thank you all. One more time, man. Congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Right?
Take that down.
Okay, I'll put that one back.
Take that down. You know what? I got it. I do have to, and this is very painful for me. I do have to eat a little crow on Dave Roberts.
Yeah, you do. Hey, Uncle Ted, it was awesome having you.
Yeah,
for my-
Ted. Thanks, Uncle Ted. It was great.
Feel free to come back anytime.
Yeah, please. If Soto resigns with the Nationals, we're going to let you announce it live. You'll be invited to announce it live, 100%.
Awesome.
And if we do a Rangers episode, we will invite you. Why we would, I don't know, but we probably will at some point. He did a phenomenal job. He did a phenomenal job. He did. And you know what I saw today, and I dismissed it when I read it, and then I thought about it a little bit longer. Like, if the Astros didn't cheat, they'd be talking about him as one of the best managers of all time.
Maybe.
He'd have 3 World Series in the last 7 years.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you can say they spent a ton of money, and you can say and he's right. I mean, with that lineup, you and I could manage that lineup. I mean, I don't know if we could manage a batting order. He did a great job with that. But managing that pitching staff with what he had to work with, that is damn good work. That is damn good work managing that pitching staff.
Yeah.
I mean, their IL for a pitching rotation was equally as good as the one that they rolled out in the playoffs. That is crazy.
Look, I shredded them down 2-1 to San Diego for a bullpen game, and I was like, oh, "You got to be kidding me! That's the bad. I know you got injuries, Glass now, and Stone and Kirk, and they threw a shutout for crying out loud." So yeah, what do I know? That's why I'm here, and he's there drinking champagne.
Yeah, he's drinking champagne, and he had been drinking enough champagne that he almost fell over when they were at the stadium the other day. It's good work. It's good work by him. You got to like that.
Yeah, Uncle Ted's throwing the Dodgers some love. All right. We'll catch y'all next week. Going to really get into to the hot stove, and also just recap this year. Seth Lugo became a favorite of the show, and he'll get some shout outs next week.
Exactly, Seth Lugo.
Statcast. I hate Statcast.
Statcast bastards.
War. All right, we're out.
I guess Vitaly's not getting on. All right.
He's pruning more trees.
Exactly. Adios.
He went back to get some cans from that homeless encampment he was parked into last week.
Maybe he went to buy a shopping cart so he could fit in.
Maybe. All right. We will see you next week.
Out. See you.
Thanks for joining us. Smash that like button and all that stuff. Subscribe to ball9.com.